A waitress begged, "Buy my dog, sir. Mommy is dying. I need money." Billionaire learned. Who took everything from her? What if a single moment of desperation could reveal the cruelest twist of fate? The rain hammered against the diner's windows that Tuesday evening when Elena wiped down the same table for the third time, her hands shaking not from the cold, but from the weight of the decision she'd made. At 34, she'd served thousands of customers in this little corner restaurant, but tonight felt different. Tonight, she was about to do something that would break her heart into a million pieces. In the corner booth sat a man in an expensive suit, his silver hair catching the dim light as he typed on his phone. Richard Blackstone, 42 years old, was worth more money than most people could imagine. He didn't know her, had never really looked at her face during his weekly visits, but Elena knew him. Oh, how she knew him. Her golden retriever, Buddy, waited in her beat-up Honda outside, trusting and loyal as always, unaware that his world was about to change forever. Some choices, Elena thought, cut deeper than others. Elena had been working double shifts for 3 months now, ever since the doctors delivered the news that turned her world upside down. Her mother, Beth, lay in the county hospital fighting stage 4 cancer, and the medical bills were drowning them both. Insurance covered some of it, but not enough. Never enough. The experimental treatment that might give her mother a fighting chance cost $40,000, money that might as well have been on the moon. She'd tried everything. Bank loans were denied because of her modest income. Fundraising had raised only a few $100s. Her mother's house was already mortgaged to the hilt from her father's medical bills 5 years ago. Elena had even considered selling her father's vintage guitar, the only thing of value she owned, but it would bring maybe $2,000 at most. Time was running out, and desperation had a way of making impossible choices seem reasonable. Richard Blackstone came in every Tuesday at 8:30, ordered the same thing, black coffee and apple pie, and left a $20 tip. He was always polite but distant, the kind of customer who saw the service but not the person providing it. Elena had learned his name from overhearing his phone calls about million-dollar deals and company acquisitions. Tonight, as she refilled his coffee cup, she noticed him smile at a photo on his phone. A golden retriever, remarkably similar to Buddy, sat beside a little girl with pigtails. "Beautiful dog," Elena said softly, her voice barely steady. Richard looked up, surprised she'd spoken. "Thank you. That's Cookie with my daughter. We lost Cookie last month, cancer. Lily's been heartbroken ever since." Elena's chest tightened. This was it. This was the opening she'd been praying for, the chance she'd been building courage to take for weeks. She thought of her mother's tired smile that morning, how Beth had squeezed her hand and whispered, "Don't worry about the money, sweetheart. We'll be okay," but they wouldn't be okay. Not without help. "Sir," Elena began, her voice trembling, "I know this sounds crazy, but I have a dog, a golden retriever. He's 3 years old, healthy, and the sweetest boy you'll ever meet." She paused, swallowing hard. "I need to sell him. My mother is dying, and I need money for her treatment. Would you consider buying him for your daughter?" Richard set down his coffee cup, studying Elena's face for the first time, really looking at her. There was something familiar about her features, something that tugged at a memory he couldn't quite place. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and her uniform was worn but clean. But it was her eyes, green with flecks of gold, that made him pause. "How much are you asking?" he said finally. $5,000, Elena whispered. "I know that's a lot for a dog, but he's purebred, and he's been trained, and he loves children. He would make your daughter so happy, I promise you that." Richard pulled out his wallet and placed $5,000 in cash on the table. Elena stared at the money, her hands shaking. It wasn't enough for the full treatment, but it was a start. It was hope. "There's just one condition," Richard said. "I want to meet him first." "Make sure he's good with kids." Elena nodded quickly. "Of course. He's in my car. I can bring him in, or I'll come with you," Richard said, standing up. "What's your name, by the way? I feel terrible that I've been coming here for months and never asked." "Elena," she said, leading him toward the door. "Elena Martinez." Richard stopped walking. The name hit him like a physical blow. and suddenly those familiar features made perfect sense. "Martinez," he repeated slowly. "Your father. Was his name Miguel Martinez?" Elena turned around, confused. "Yes, how did you know him?" Richard's face had gone pale. Miguel Martinez, the man whose construction company Richard had destroyed 15 years ago with a hostile takeover. The man whose family business had been in operation for 3 generations before Richard's corporation crushed it to acquire prime development land. Miguel had fought the buyout in court for 2 years, spending every penny he had on legal fees until a heart attack took him before the case was resolved. Richard remembered because Miguel's widow had written him a letter afterward, begging him to reconsider, telling him about their daughter, who was working her way through nursing school. "Nothing," Richard said quietly. "I thought I recognized the name." But as they walked toward Elena's car, Richard's mind was racing. Miguel Martinez's daughter was standing in front of him, desperate enough to sell her beloved dog to save her mother's life. The same mother who had lost everything when Richard destroyed their family business. If this moment touched your heart, please give the video a thumbs up. Buddy bounded out of the car the moment Elena opened the door, his tail wagging as he immediately approached Richard with the trusting enthusiasm that golden retrievers were famous for. Richard knelt down, and the dog nuzzled his hand, sensing somehow that this human carried both sadness and kindness in equal measure. "He's beautiful," Richard said, and meant it. Buddy was exactly the kind of dog that would heal his daughter's broken heart. But as he watched Elena's face while she petted her dog, Richard saw something that cut him to the core. This wasn't just about money. This was about a young woman who was losing everything, piece by piece, just like her family had 15 years ago. "Elena," Richard said carefully, "tell me about your mother's condition." Elena's voice broke as she explained the cancer, the failed treatments, the experimental therapy that offered a 30% chance of remission. "The doctors say we have maybe 2 months to get the funding together. After that—" She shrugged, unable to finish the sentence. Richard closed his eyes. $40,000. For him, it was lunch money. For Elena, it was her mother's life. And it was all connected to a decision he'd made in a boardroom 15 years ago, when Miguel Martinez was just a name on a contract, not a real person with a real family. "Where is your mother being treated?" Richard asked. "County General. Room 314. She's all I have left. My father died when I was 19, and it's just been us ever since. She raised me to be strong, to never give up, but I don't know how to be strong about this. I don't know how to let her go." Richard looked at Buddy, who was now sitting between them, somehow sensing the weight of the moment. "Elena, I need to tell you something. But first, I want you to know that I'm going to help your mother. All of it. The treatment, the medical bills, everything." Elena stared at him in shock. "I don't understand. Why would you—" "Because 15 years ago, I destroyed your father's business. I took everything from your family, and I've carried that guilt ever since. I remember your mother's letter. I remember her asking me to reconsider, telling me about you." The color drained from Elena's face. You're the one who—" "Yes," Richard said quietly. "I'm the one who took everything from you. Have you ever faced something like this? Let us know in the comments." Elena stepped backward, her hand instinctively reaching for Buddy as if he were an anchor in a suddenly unstable world. "You destroyed my father's company. You killed him." The words came out as a whisper, but they carried the weight of 15 years of struggle, of watching her father work himself to death fighting a system designed to crush people like him. "Elena, I know how this looks. How does it look?" Elena's voice rose and Buddy whined softly, sensing her distress. "My father died of a heart attack at 52 because of the stress you put him under. My mother lost the house, had to sell everything we owned. I worked 3 jobs to get through nursing school because you took away our future." Richard didn't try to defend himself. He deserved every word, every accusation. "You're right. I was ruthless, focused only on profit margins and expansion. I never thought about the real people behind the businesses I acquired. Your father fought harder than anyone I'd ever encountered, and instead of respecting that, I fought back harder." And now you want to buy my dog and pay for my mother's treatment to make yourself feel better?" Elena's hands were shaking with anger and exhaustion. "No," Richard said firmly. "I want to do what I should have done 15 years ago. I want to make it right, not because it makes me feel better, but because it's what your family deserved then and what you deserve now." Elena looked down at Buddy, who was watching both of them with concerned brown eyes. "I don't know if I can accept help from you. Every dollar would remind me of what you took from us." Richard reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card, writing on the back, "This is my personal number. I'm going to transfer money to the hospital tonight to cover your mother's treatment, whether you want me to or not. But Elena, I have a proposal. My company has a charitable foundation. We fund medical research and help families in crisis. I want you to run it." Elena stared at him. "What? You're a nurse. You understand health care. You understand what families go through. You'd have the power to help people the way I should have helped your family. You'd never have to worry about money again. And you could spend your time making sure other families don't go through what yours did." If you've been enjoying this story, subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming tales. 6 months later, Elena stood in the sunny office of the Blackstone Family Foundation, reviewing grant applications from families facing medical crises. Through the window, she could see Buddy playing in the courtyard with Cookie 2, the golden retriever puppy that Richard had gotten for his daughter Lily. The two dogs had become inseparable, just like the two families who had found an unexpected connection through tragedy and redemption. Elena's mother, Beth, sat in a comfortable chair nearby. Her color had returned, and her smile was bright after completing the experimental treatment successfully. The cancer was in remission, and the doctors were cautiously optimistic about her long-term prognosis. But more than that, Beth had found purpose again, volunteering at the foundation and helping Elena identify families who needed assistance. "You know," Beth said, looking up from a letter she was reading, "your father would be so proud of what you've built here. Not just proud of your success, but proud of your heart. You could have chosen bitterness, but you chose healing instead." Elena nodded, thinking about the conversation she'd had with Richard the week before. He'd told her that working with the foundation had changed him, that seeing the real impact of his wealth had given him a sense of purpose he'd never experienced in the corporate world. He'd also stepped down as CEO of his company, choosing to focus on philanthropy full-time. The Jameson family's application came in today, Elena told her mother. "They need help with their son's surgery. Same situation we were in. Insurance won't cover the experimental procedure." "Approve it," Beth said without hesitation. "Every child deserves a fighting chance." As Elena prepared the paperwork, she thought about how strange life could be. The man who had once represented everything wrong with the world had become an unlikely ally in making it better. Richard had never asked for forgiveness, understanding that some wounds take time to heal, if they heal at all. Instead, he had simply dedicated himself to ensuring that his wealth would never again cause the kind of pain it had caused the Martinez family. Buddy trotted into the office, his tail wagging as he approached Elena's desk. She scratched behind his ears, grateful that she'd never had to sell him after all. Sometimes the best outcomes came from the most unexpected places. That evening, as Elena locked up the office, she found a note that Richard had left on her desk. "Thank you for showing me that redemption isn't about forgetting the past, but about creating a better future. Your father raised an extraordinary daughter." Elena folded the note and put it in her purse. Tomorrow she would help another family facing an impossible choice. Tomorrow she would turn someone else's desperation into hope. And that, she thought, was exactly what her father would have wanted. If you enjoyed this story, please remember to like, leave a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe for more heartwarming tales. Thank you for joining us on this journey of forgiveness, redemption, and the power of second chances.